So today I was sitting thinking about things that I would use for tools when I created Rejected Hearts Club.
Mhm.
So with that, obviously it was created after a rando breakup. And after that, I've had plenty more breakups, unfortunately. But I want to get into top tips to help people survive after a breakup.
Oh, this is gonna be lovely. This is let's do it.
Welcome to Heartbreak to Healed podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Baptiste from Rejected Hearts Club.
And I'm your host, Sophie Delcour with Healing Soul Spiritual Center.
And we do the heartbreaks
so you can heal.
I'm just going to read off 4 tips that one of my blogs had in regards to how to survive after a breakup. Tip number 1 is acceptance. Sometimes I know that's hard because you're in shock mode. You don't understand what's happening, especially if it was a surprise breakup, which I've gone through and I assume you've gone through as well. Tip number 1, acceptance. What do you think about that after a breakup?
That's actually the biggest thing because we've talked about this in previous episodes, because so many people struggle with change. And that is actually the underlying biggest factor that's going on, is the whole change and having to deal with that. In order to make the change, in order to move on, oh my gosh, yes, you do have to accept it. You can't deny it. It is what it is, and the reason why that's so important to do that, as opposed to try to overly fight for something or sit in that space, that moment of being broken up with and not moving forward,
Mhm.
simply not healthy for you.
It's
Because
not.
why? Because, why would you want to do that? The person either doesn't want to be with you or you don't want to be with them. And in either of those circumstances, why would you want to sit in that level of unlove, we'll call it?
That's exactly it. So when you're in the level of not accepting what just happened, you are still sitting in your feelings and it's going to take a little bit longer to move on and heal
Mhm.
versus sitting in your feelings, acknowledging this is what my life is about to be like and I'm accepting that I'm going through a breakup.
Yes. And now I want to specify this though, because I think sometimes this can get misconstrued. This is different than allowing yourself to feel the feelings from that moment of being broken up. Okay. You are allowed to be upset, angry, sad, devastated.
Mhm.
All of that's allowed. You need to cry it out. All right. Especially because it's so healthy to do that. And don't hold yourself back at all from expressing those feelings. Now, that doesn't mean if you're angry, also go be an asshole to
Exactly.
somebody,
Now, we
like,
do not recommend slicing people's tires, busting
no.
windows, which I have a story about that, but
Yeah, that's not what that means, because there's a difference between validating feelings versus behaving poorly. There's
correct.
a massive difference. So I'll just say that real quick as part of that little tangent there. There's your
Yes.
footnote. There's a difference between valid feelings and your expression, your behavior of those feelings. So feel those feelings, let it out, cry your eyes out if you need to, but that means do that while you're accepting what's going on, though.
Mhm.
So in other words, just because you're in a space, let's say you're trying to work on accepting it, that doesn't mean deny your feelings, though, and
Mhm.
act like you're numb or it didn't happen or you're not upset. No, get your feelings out, and they could come up more than once depending on your situation,
And
if
that's
you're if
okay.
there's, yeah, like, let it out, but accept the fact that the relationship is no more.
What would you say that it takes to get to the point of acceptance? Because sometimes we're in such denial that, oh my God, is this happening? Am I really going through a breakup? And you're thinking, where's my life going to be without this person? And like you said, it's adapting to change.
Yeah.
Is there a time period of when you should be able to accept, okay, acceptance, I'm going to make it easier for me to move on? What do you think about that?
You know, you need to honestly work on accepting it immediately, because it's like what we were just talking about, though, that you need to still express your feelings. That doesn't deny how you feel about it. It only is saying you need to accept it. For example, this is going to be, may seem, extreme to others, but if you have a family member pass away and you're in that denial phase,
Mm-hmm.
that denial doesn't bring your family member back.
Yeah.
That right? So in a sense, it is very valid that when a breakup happens, it's the death of the relationship, right?
Yes.
So you do have to go through grieving, but that denial period does, as much as, being in that moment of shock of no way, especially if you weren't expecting it, or if you were ignoring the red flags to it, that can come up as a shock. But once it's happened, it's actually best to get yourself to move into acceptance immediately.
Wow.
Denial does nothing but strain the brain and the emotions and hurt you further. You're only hurting yourself by trying to pretend that this is not the case.
Yeah. And then you end up again holding on to that denial. And it is harder to move on because you're still hanging on to something that no longer exists, unfortunately.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Like, that's a great tip because I'm sure with a few of my breakups, I'm sure I held on to the denial, like, because I couldn't believe that something was happening after investing so much time.
Mhm.
So perhaps if I would have accepted things a little bit earlier, it would have been better to move on quicker. But that shit hurts.
Yeah, it is. And that's still the difference. But this is where I love that we do talk about this stuff. I love that we do this show, because a lot of times people don't get to talk about these kinds of things to this kind of detail and how it
Mhm.
affects you. Or maybe it's something you simply don't know because you haven't been through it before.
Yeah.
You haven't figured it out. The people that are around you haven't really come to understand it yet. And the only way you can learn, though, is to talk about it and to put some clear concepts around what's actually going on. Hence, for example, why like therapy can be important, because that allows you to talk with somebody to get those feelings out, to address, kind of analyze a bit and go through that healing, and that's a big thing that we're trying to pump up, is to go get help, go talk. Focus on, when that happens, the acceptance and where you go from there, instead of obsessing on the situation.
Stop thinking on the what ifs.
Yeah, and it's still all about that change. It's going to feel more shocking to the person who has a harder time with change, and
Mhm.
there are definitely going to be people who have a harder time with change than others. Some people crave change, some people cannot stand it for the life of them, and it will
Yeah.
give them a full-blown panic attack. But the truth is life changes, you change as a human, change is absolutely inevitable. So you have to figure out a way to accept that change and grow from it.
Easier said than done, right? But I love
Yeah.
everything that you're saying because it's so true and it's very helpful. And once you come out of breakups, then listening back to everything that you're saying, it's so true. You have to have that acceptance earlier to move on. Tip number 2 is to let it go. So we've hit the acceptance point, and now it's time to let go. When you let go, you can live your best life. The way that I was healing as far as letting it go was finding cheap tickets to travel around the world and just take different trips and meet different people. And I wasn't dating anybody, but it's like I needed to heal myself and just get away. So that was my version of letting it go.
I love that. Traveling and seeing the world, and even if you're not in a financial position to tromp around the world to go do stuff, that's
Mhm.
okay. You we live on this earth. There's going to be somewhere nearby. You could just go take a stroll in nature and get yourself to reconnect.
Yes.
There's a real power behind doing things like that, escaping the city, escaping technology and electronics, and
Mhm.
just going and reconnecting. The centering that it allows the human to have is astounding. And that centering is what will allow you to let go and to just be with you,
Mhm.
be with yourself. And it's okay.
It's
It's
more than
perfectly,
okay. And how you
yeah.
said basically eliminating yourself from technology. I think that is a huge thing because it's so easy these days, especially when you break up. You want to see what that other person is doing. You want to know if they're already dating somebody. You just want to see what's different in their lives without you in it. And
Mhm,
so, even if you have to take steps of just blocking that person for your sanity, not meaning anything was a horrible breakup. It's just
mhm.
for your sanity in order to let go. Because again,
Yeah,
it's too easy to pick up our phones, go to any app, and check in on exactly what somebody was doing.
I know. And it's so typical. And then there's other things that you have to consider. Are your friends doing it for you? What
Yes.
memes are popping up in your social media feeds? What videos are popping up that are just like, basically getting you to think about it, or even persuading you without you knowing to feel a certain way about it? Think about it,
Mhm.
especially if you, let's say, for example, a typical like snarky meme, sarcastic, written by total smartass that's meant to be kind of funny. If you're in your feels about a breakup and that snarky ass meme comes up about a breakup, that
Yeah, and
may
then you're
now
gonna repost
impact.
it so your ex can see it, and then you're gonna be a petty Betty, guilty as charged, where it's like, "Okay, well, this person knows that I'm talking about them, and they're gonna see it, and this is how I feel, and they need to feel bad because I feel bad." That's
Yeah.
the track that we go on, especially with social media.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
it's just easier to if you wanna do that, do it a few times, but that's the whole point of letting things go, because if you keep doing that repeatedly, it's gonna you're gonna continue to obsess about your ex, and you're not letting things go. You haven't gone to the acceptance route, and
Mhm.
like we're saying, it's not let go yet.
Oh, yeah. And it's especially because now with everything tracked too. So think like, for example, Facebook has all the memories, right? And that stuff will pop up. So just
Mhm.
another reason that, if you're having a hard time with something like that, and I I hope you're still working through your healing journey if that's the case. But if these memories come up, what good does that do you with that healing process? And it was all just because you were staring at your phone on social media when you could have just put it down and not looked at it.
Mhm. It's just hard these days, which is unfortunate, and even with the memories, like, that's literally the only reason why I keep a Facebook account is so I can go back and look at memories. So I'll still
Mhm.
see things from, like, past boyfriends or whatever, but it doesn't put me in a place of, "Oh, I really miss them." It's just like, "Okay, cool, like, next, and I looks cute in that photo, so I'm gonna keep
Yeah.
it."
And see, and that's what's amazing. That's the space that you want to get to, and that's what
Yeah.
it means to truly let go. If you can all of a sudden see an old picture or
Yeah.
something and it doesn't bother you. My most previous, I guess you could say, ex-husband, his profile actually popped up on my suggested friends out
Of
of nowhere.
course it did.
The first time in I don't know how many years, but it didn't bother me. It was just like, really, Facebook? But that kind of stuff happens. But those are the moments you've been able to let go and accept the situation. It's done. You're now letting go. You're moving forward.
And sometimes you look back and you're like, "What was I even doing with that fool?" Like,
Yes.
sometimes it's just like, we had great moments and we just weren't meant to be, or we're better off as friends and that's it. So we're also not saying if you were in some major abusive, toxic relationship to, continue to look at memories because that's obviously going to put you in a bad spot and trigger bad things. We're talking about
Yes.
basic breakups that it's easier to move forward versus crazy abusive situations and then some.
Yes, and there would definitely be some special tips for difficult situations, but right now we're talking about the standard. We'll call it the standard breakup.
Yes. So then our third tip is I am the queen of this, is to stay busy. When you're staying busy, your mind won't have time to sit and go backwards into the past of the what ifs, or I wish I could have done this, or let me call or text them, or let me see what they're up
Mhm.
to. When you're staying busy, you're being busy for yourself, and you have to maintain that. I'm not saying be busy to an extreme that it's going to break you. Try something new, try yoga, try running, try walking, hang out with your friends more, the traveling bit, join some new clubs, some new activity, focus on
Mhm.
work if you've been slacking because of a breakup. And just that's another way to tip number 1, acceptance. Tip number 2, let go. And now staying busy to basically conquer the world and to continue being you.
I love that, and I think let's spice it up here. I think what I actually really take from this is not so much stay busy, because there is that point where you can stay busy and it be problematic because now
Mhm.
you're distracting yourself from even healing, because that's now trying to brush something under the rug and not address it. Now you're collecting your own trauma that will come out later in a different relationship when that comes around. Not
Facts.
good. So you need to be able to do that. But this, what you're talking about, this kind of stay busy, is more focus on some self development and feel amazing about yourself. That's what we need. So if you just
Yes.
lost something like that, it's healthy to remind yourself how amazing you are. So
Mhm.
if that means that you go learn something new, and so it doesn't mean fill up your time back to back from the time you wake up till you sleep. Give yourself some sort of thing to accomplish, whether it is familiar and taking it to the next step, like you were talking about, with the work stuff. Because yes, some, breakups, divorces, and all of that can impact things like that.
Mm.
Even still, like, yeah, try something new.
Mhm.
Why not? Right? Or create a new daily habit. Yes, like a walk or something, but have something attached to it. It could be
Mhm.
something as simple as I'm going to try to get myself some clean sunlight on my skin, on my hair, for my eyes for 30 minutes a day. And you
Mhm.
now make a new habit and
Mhm.
watch what happens to you. And then all of a sudden, that shift from that pain now becomes energy towards your betterment. You learn more about you that way as well. And that's what's even more amazing about trying something new in this kind of a time period, is that if you try something new, it literally accelerates you learning more about yourself. And you could try something and hate it. Well, guess what? Now you know you hate it.
I preach to things in my business, preach this to my family is you never know unless you try. Like it doesn't hurt unless you try. So try something new and then you don't know if you'll end up being great at what you're trying. So
Yeah.
hence how I
Who would have
started a
thought?
freaking business. Like who would have thunk? Like I never even wore jewelry and now I'm a jewelry designer. Like come on.
Yep. You grabbed a hobby and it became an actual revenue producing business.
It's
What the heck?
insane.
And guess what? That means if you can do it, really anybody can. You just got to be willing to put in the effort. Develop yourself. Put that time into you. Like, make you important now. That's the beauty,
Mhm.
actually, the silver lining behind any breakup is
Mhm.
that you get to now just focus on you and you don't need to worry about somebody else. Take advantage of that because eventually, yeah, there'll probably be a relationship that comes along. And
Mhm.
that's completely normal. Where this is completely typical of a human to be in a relationship and want that kind of romantic connection, natural. But there are time periods in life where sometimes you just need to be you. And that's it.
That's it. And with that leads me to tip number 4, which is the ultimate thing that we always say that clearly I preach with Rejected Hearts Club is love yourself.
Yes.
1,000%. Once you've gone through step 1, 2, 3, you get to step 4 of loving yourself because you realize your self-worth. You
Mm-hmm.
realize that you are a great person, and you realize that you didn't let somebody else take your worth and your value because you are worthy at the end of the day. Everybody's worthy. We're all human beings. And I always say, be a great human being. So you have to love yourself
Absolutely.
in order to move forward, have acceptance, staying quote unquote busy. And now you're at peace. You love yourself and you've taken the time to heal for yourself. So when you do decide to be in any kind of relationship, you love yourself enough that you can give love to somebody else. Easy.
Yes. And I'd like actually to keep expanding on that, and also give the opportunity for people to understand why we're collaborating the way we are and what that means. Because you're right when it comes to this. Love yourself. That's part of what you do. That is what Rejected Hearts Club is about, and that's really honestly the heart and soul of what I do. The reason why, you and I collaborated on this is because getting to that point of loving yourself and the different factors involved it's dynamic. Okay. There's going to be a variety of things. With what I do, it requires helping people to help them heal when they're hurt, they're imbalanced, their heart is broken, something's going wrong. That is very difficult to deal with. We're we're not meant to deal with everything on our own. And doing the different Reiki and energy practices to help people recenter and to heal, and especially in a natural way, is
Mhm.
fundamental for a human being getting to that point. Then, as they're working on that, the point of you having Rejected Hearts Club now allows you to express it out loud for others to see. So it is a combination of doing the hard internal work and then the outward expression of that work. That's the partnership that we have. That is why it's so important to do this. So
Mhm.
I want all of our listeners to understand that. And whether it's through energy healing and jewelry, or if you go a different path, that's okay too. Do what's best for you, because bottom line, that's still what's most important no matter what. But you do need to find those ways to love yourself. And no, you actually won't be able to love another properly and fully as you can unless you love yourself first, because basically you can't pour from an empty cup. Your energy and how you are needs to be established in order to be willing to give some of your energy away. Otherwise, you're just going to end up exhausted, depleted, imbalanced, usually traumas coming out in little or big ways, things of that nature. So please do it, grab onto all these little tips and make yourself amazing. And then suddenly in the next round, you're also going to be an amazing partner for somebody else. And that's beautiful.
I love that. Well said. What you said was beautiful. And I like how you said in the next round. That's all it is. It's the
Yeah.
next round of your future, your potential longtime partner. You never
Mm-hmm.
know. So receive that a lot better and a lot quicker once you learn to love yourself. And I know that might sound cliche, but it's truly a thing. And I speak from experience, as does Sophie. So
Mm-hmm.
listen to us.
I know, right? But well, and here's another good example as to why. you have to get to that space of loving yourself,
Mhm.
also to cut bad patterns. A lot of times
Yes. Oh my
we
gosh.
we end up basically redating or even remarrying the same kind of person and going through similar kinds of struggles. Of course, never exactly the same, but similar, yeah. And when you see that pattern going on, basically that is the universe saying, "Hey dude, you're not doing it right. You're not learning your lessons yet, and you're going to go through the same crap until you learn these lessons and learn to accept them, let go, heal, and move
Mhm.
forward."
Mhm.
And then suddenly life changes.
The last thing I'll say from a personal stance is I had to look myself in the mirror and basically say, "What am I doing wrong?" I'm the common denominator, and I'm like, my situations ended pretty much exactly the same way where I'm like, "Okay, something's up," and I was picking the same exact guy, different looks, but literally the same mold. So I had
Mhm.
to change of, okay, the next person that I am with, I'm gonna make sure that everything I do is different. I'm not changing who I am, I'm just changing the different things of what I thought that I wanted. I just said to the universe, I'm like, can you just send me a nice guy? Because I'm getting all these curveballs and quote unquote bad boys, but I'm the one picking them. Again, common
Mhm.
denominator, me. So I had
Yeah.
to think, what is it that I really need? I need somebody completely opposite from what I've been doing. And guess what? I'm married to that guy now. Been with him for 7 years. So, I mean, which is insane for a gal like me when we get into other stories, but yeah, it's just sometimes you have to look in the mirror and say to yourself, "What is it that I need to do differently going forward in my next relationship to get exactly what I deserve in a really good way?"
Yes, and guess what? That still ties back into the answer to that question is you need to honor yourself first. That's what you need to do first. In other words, you need to love yourself
Mhm,
first, right?
mhm.
Then you'll know exactly where you stand on different types of subjects that might come up, day-to-day dealings with somebody. Or if you do need to make changes, most of us do. There's not one of us that is perfect at all. We all have issues. We have to learn from the issues in order
Mhm.
to move forward. That's hands down every single human being on this planet. So you're not escaping that. Even though we love to blame others, that's when it's best to look back at yourself, though. Why are you having those feelings in the first place? Because
Yeah.
nobody, nobody's in control of your feelings but you.
Mhm.
No matter what situation's happening outside of you that triggered those feelings are still 100% only yours. So if they're coming up, that's actually a wonderful indicator of things to work on for that self development and to bring in that self love so that way things are better next time.
To recap, top 4 tips that we recommend to basically heal after a breakup: acceptance,
Mhm.
letting go, then you wanna keep yourself busy, mind, body, and soul, and love yourself.
Absolutely.
As always, thank you guys for listening. Be sure to subscribe Heartbreak to Healed on all platforms and leave us some great comments because we love you all. And if you have any questions for us, you know where to find us. Links are
Mhm.
below.